My name is Pastor Mullenberg, and this is Eat This Word, a weekly program where I serve up bite-sized bits of Bible. Verses I'd like to share with you today are Hebrews 7, verses 20 to 25. They read like this: "But because Jesus lives forever, he has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, he's able to save completely those who come to God through him, because he always lives to intercede for them." So I found these verses and looked at them. Two phrases here that really caught my eye. The first is save completely, that Jesus is able to save us completely, and then that he always lives to intercede for us. And so I'm going to do 2 weeks, I think, on these verses, and this week we're going to talk about that first phrase, that Jesus is able to save completely. What a wonderful phrase, that Jesus doesn't save us part way, he saves us all the way. So the King James version of this verse uses a great phrase, wherefore he's able to save them to the uttermost. Uttermost is a word I don't use often enough. I think maybe I'm going to incorporate it into my vocabulary now. You know, something that's to the uttermost, that means it'd be fully and completely and all the way, right? In fact, uttermost, it's a compound word. I think it's redundant, because utterly, if you're utterly exhausted, it means you can't go anymore. You're totally wiped out. If you're utterly overwhelmed, it means you can't be more surprised. So utterly means the most. And so it's uttermost means the most. It's to the hilt, all the way to the most saved we can be. And I think it's neat that the King James uses that compound word, because actually the Greek word that lies behind this is a compound word itself. This is one of only 2 verses in Scripture that use this word. Usually if a word only gets used once or twice in Scripture, it's a little harder for us to know what it means because there's less context. But in this case, it's a compound word that uses 2 very, very common words. And so it's really pretty easy to figure out what it means. Pan is the Greek word that means all, fullness. You think, Pan America means all of the Americas. Pandemic means it's a disease that all of us are vulnerable to. Pan means all, and telos is a very important Greek word. I can't think of a lot of English examples that are built out of that word, but it's an important word in Scripture for the goal or the end or the completion of things. And so both pan and telos essentially mean the same thing. It means everything. It means complete. It means comprehensive. So just like uttermost, pantelos means to the hilt. The only other verse that uses this word in Scripture: behold, there was a woman who a disabling spirit for 18 years, and she was bent over and could not fully straighten herself. And fully straighten, that's pantelos. She could not stand all the way up. And so in Hebrews 7, when we're told that Jesus saves us completely, Jesus doesn't save us part of the way. Jesus doesn't save us some of the way. Jesus saves us all of the way, to the uttermost, completely, to the most. So what can we learn about this verse, about how that happens, how he does that? I need to pay attention to what verse 24 says about Jesus being a permanent priesthood. The idea here of a priest is someone who goes between us and God, an intermediary between us and God. And the idea is that we need a priest, someone to protect us from the judgment of God that we deserve. In Hebrews, really the whole scope of the book of Hebrews is to compare Jesus to the Old Testament system, the sacrificial system, the priesthood of the Old Testament. The verses right before this, really all of chapter 7, is about the priesthood and comparing Jesus to that. And the whole idea of the priesthood in the Old Testament was they could go where the people couldn't go. They could go into the Holy of Holies when no one else could. And it was the priest's job to offer the sacrifices on behalf of the people to gain them forgiveness, to protect them from judgment. And so the priest was like a protective shield against the wrath of God that sinners deserved. But the point of Hebrews is that their priests die. Priests had sins of their own that they were responsible for. The animals, the bulls and the lambs that they were offering, were not really suitable sacrifice, suitable substitutes for human beings. And so the Old Testament priesthood was important, but there was an inferiority to it that Jesus replaces, that Jesus fixes, because Jesus is the Son of God who has no sin of his own to atone for. Jesus offers himself as the substitute in place of these animals that are insufficient. And Jesus, not only does he offer himself as the sacrifice and die, he also lives and lives forever. And so he's a better priesthood. He's a different priesthood. And in that way, he's able to save completely those who come to God through him. This week is Easter week. We're about to observe Good Friday. When Jesus hung on the cross at the very end, John tells us that among his last words were the words, "It is finished." I want to show you the Greek word that lies behind that. It's Tetelestai. Often we'll hear that it's like an accounting term, like it's an economic term, like paid in full, complete, it's paid. And what I want you to notice is we put our other word pantelis up here is the telos that they have in common, built from the same word. Jesus saves us completely because he has paid in full the debt that we owed. When Jesus went to the cross, there was nothing more to be done. It was finished. It is finished. Jesus is the better priest. He's the better sacrifice who saves us to the uttermost.